To prove that amniotic fluid tasted like Sprite, I started drinking it in the womb. But it turns out, my mom wasn't carrying regular amniotic fluid, but the world's only origin of heaven and earth. This origin pointed to my mom being the sole female emperor of the 8,000 desolate realms. I thought I could just relax, but my mom started funneling the origin's power into me every day, constantly cleansing my body. At the same time, a system called Reject Lying Flat forcefully bound to me. It said, "Host, as a disciple, you must create a fortune beyond normal people. Please start cultivating from within the womb immediately. Upon completing the mission, you will be rewarded with a supreme bone and the heaven-swallowing demon palace." I was instantly thrilled. Just by their names, I knew these rewards were incredibly powerful, but I didn't know anything about cultivation. Was my first mission going to be a failure? Suddenly, a light bulb went off. I can't cultivate on my own, but I can use my mom's power. She bathes me in power every day, and that origin of heaven and earth runs through my body in a special path. Maybe that's a cultivation method. I couldn't help but laugh. I was a genius. Meanwhile, in the profound Shuang cave heaven, a handsome, godlike man was carefully helping a beautiful woman out of a room. This was my mom, Emperor Shuangtian Su Qingqing, and my dad, Jiang Xingshu. He helped her into a rocking chair. Then, completely ignoring his image as a saint ancestor expert, he knelt on the ground and started massaging her legs. I couldn't help but want to laugh. My dad was a total simp. Just then, I woke up and stretched. My mom cried out, "Aya, this little one is acting up again." My dad's angry voice immediately rang out. "You little brat, causing trouble in my wife's belly. When you get out, I'm gonna smack your butt until it's a smashed watermelon." But before he could finish, my mom slapped him flying. "Jiang Xingshu," she said angrily, "if you dare touch a single one of my son's fingers, you won't get to touch me for 10,000 years. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. My mom had my dad totally wrapped around her finger. After they had their little spat, my mom said softly, "Xingshu, help me get ready. I need to start cleansing our little one's body." My dad said with some heartache, "Chinger, this must be hard on you. If this little brat's constitution wasn't so ordinary, you wouldn't have to use your origin's power to cleanse him every day." Once they were ready, my mom went back to the room to meditate. The vast power of the origin of heaven and earth surged like a raging sea, but she carefully transformed it, making it gentle before it flowed into my body. Finally, it's here, I thought. This is what I've been waiting for. My mom's origin power flowed through me, following a mysterious path, constantly washing over my body and soul. I also started to try and control this power myself, but I had overestimated my ability. My mom was an emperor, and I couldn't move her power at all. But I didn't get discouraged. I quickly used my mind to try and mobilize my own strength. This was incredibly difficult. It took a long time, but I finally figured out a few tricks and managed to gather a tiny bit of power. It was just a sliver, but I was so excited. After all, it was my first time cultivating. Next, I carefully controlled this power, trying to follow behind my mom's origin power. After a lot of effort, I finally memorized the path of her power. 2.5 hours later, the cleansing process ended. It's time to complete the mission, I thought. Then, following the path I had memorized, I began to control the power to travel through my body. As long as I completed one full cycle, the mission should be complete. At that moment, my mom opened her eyes in the room with a hint of fatigue. Even an emperor would feel tired after using their origin power for a long time. As she was about to start recovering, her expression suddenly changed. In the next second, her face showed extreme shock. "Oh my gosh, how is this possible?" she exclaimed. "Xingshu, come quickly!" With her call, the space in the room rippled and my dad's figure appeared. "What's wrong, Chinger? What happened?" My mom said in awe, "Xingshu, our son." Seeing her expression, my dad's heart dropped. "What about our son, Xingshu?" he asked. "Xingshu, would you believe me if I told you our son is cultivating in my belly?" Hearing this, my dad froze. If he didn't know his wife was an emperor, he would have thought she was delirious. In the entire history of the Great Desolate Realm, this was unheard of. My dad quickly calmed himself. "Chinger, you're teasing me again." But when he reached out and placed his hand on her belly, his expression became priceless. "Oh my God," he said. "This little brat really is cultivating." He could truly sense a power running through the fetus's body in a mystical path. For a moment, my dad was stunned. It was a while before he gave a wry smile. "Looks like our son is a monster," he said. My mom's slender fingers stroked her belly, her eyes full of love. the cultivation path he's using is the one I use to temper his bones and essence. It seems my daily effort to cleanse him hasn't been wasted. My dad laughed proudly. He is my son, Yang Shangshu's son. After all, he's extraordinary. My son is definitely destined to become an immortal. My mom rolled her eyes at him, then said seriously, "This little guy's cultivation is a bit clumsy. I'll guide him." With that, she closed her eyes again and mobilized her power to enter my body. This time, she didn't cleanse my whole body, but instead sent a small amount of spiritual energy to guide the trace of power within me, helping it move quickly through my limbs and meridians. I didn't notice the spiritual energy at all, but I clearly felt my power running more and more smoothly. Not only that, more spiritual energy gathered in my body, making my power grow quickly. I was ecstatic. My idea was right, this really worked. As I continued to cultivate, a mysterious aura was born inside me. This aura made me feel refreshed and energized. Soon, I was in a state of self-forgetfulness. Unknowingly, a whole day passed. When I came out of that strange state, my body had undergone a massive change. A thin purple aura, which was innate purple chi, was moving rapidly through my meridians. Innate purple chi contains endless mysteries and can only be born in the womb. For a cultivator to obtain it after birth is almost impossible. I guess my mission is complete, I thought. Just as I was about to ask the system, a wave of fatigue swept over me and I fell asleep in an instant. At this moment, the system's notification sound rang out. "Congratulations, host, for completing the mission. Rewards have been issued. Please check them." Soon, my mom finished recovering. A smile played on her lips. This little one, cultivating just once, actually produced so much innate purple chi. Even in the oldest lineages, you won't find many with this much innate purple chi. But she didn't think too much of it. This was likely a lucky accident. After all, a fetus's consciousness is still very weak. When I woke up from my sweet dream, it was the next day. My mom had already cleansed me today, but I had been asleep. I couldn't wait to call up the system. "Host, rewards have been issued. Would you like to fuse with the Supreme Bone? Would you like to fuse with the Heaven-Swallowing Demon Palace?" I couldn't help but swallow. These two rewards were unbelievable. Even having just one of them could help me reach the Saint Ancestor realm. In this world, there are 13 major cultivation realms. Saint Ancestors are the strongest of the strong, second only to Emperors. Emperors are so rare that one might not appear for 1,000,000 years, making Saint Ancestors the peak of existence. Without a second thought, I chose one. I'll fuse with the Heaven-Swallowing Demon Palace first. A huge flood of information rushed into my mind. It was all absorbed in a short time. I immediately started to cultivate according to the method imprinted in my soul. Outside, my mom and dad were sitting at a stone table. With them were two young people, my mom's younger brother, Su Qingtian, and her younger sister, Su Qingyu. They were talking about me. My mom told them about my cultivation. The two of them had very exaggerated expressions. Su Qingtian laughed. "My nephew, is he a reincarnated powerful being?" My dad laughed on the side. "I think it was just a coincidence. It'll probably only happen once. Those old monsters who have lived for countless years, even if they were to reincarnate, would choose to be born into a normal family." He then turned to my mom. "Cher, did the little brat make any moves when you were cleansing him today?" My mom shook her head. She had hoped I would temper more innate purple chi before being born, but it only happened that one time yesterday. My dad said confidently, "See, I told you so. It's not that easy to cultivate in the womb. If he could cultivate, I'd have to treat him like an ancestor when he's born." But in the very next moment, there was movement in my mom's belly. My mom looked stunned. "Shengshu, did you mean what you just said?" My dad was confused. "What are you talking about?" My mom had a speechless expression. What would you think if I said this little guy is cultivating again? As soon as she said this, my dad's body froze. "Let me see." He still didn't believe it and reached out to touch her belly. Sure enough, there was spiritual energy moving inside the fetus. My dad immediately felt terrible. He had been slapped in the face so quickly. Is this little brat eavesdropping on me? Su Qingtian and Su Qingyu also came over and checked. My goodness, he really is cultivating. The two of them stared at each other, their eyes full of shock. They also thought it was a coincidence the first time. They couldn't believe it was happening right in front of them now. "Wait a minute," my mom said, suddenly startled. "The cultivation method the little guy is using seems to be a strange one." The three of them's pupils contracted. How is that possible? Did the little guy create his own cultivation method? This was a shocking rumor. How could an unborn fetus, whose consciousness hadn't even fully formed, create a cultivation method. Su Qingtian said again, could he really be a reincarnated powerful being? After a while, my mom shook her head. That's almost impossible. Any powerful being who reincarnates would leave a backup plan. They wouldn't start a new life with an ordinary constitution. But at first, the little one's constitution was very normal. It only got better because I insisted on cleansing him every day. But if we rule that out, how can we explain this? After a moment of thought, my mom shared her idea. I think the little guy might have a congenital divine artifact in his body. Upon hearing this, the three of them's eyes lit up. Congenital divine artifacts are very rare, but throughout history, many powerful people have had them. If the baby also had a congenital divine artifact with a cultivation method, it would explain everything. Once the little guy stops cultivating, I'll check carefully and we'll know, she said. Just as they were all discussing it enthusiastically, a powerful aura suddenly burst from my mom's body. In the womb, I was overjoyed. I couldn't believe I had successfully cultivated the heaven-swallowing demon palace so easily. It seems having it imprinted directly into my soul was a big advantage. As the cultivation method ran quickly, an invisible black hole appeared in my dantian. The black hole was frantically devouring the surrounding spiritual energy. A vast purple aura rose from my body, instantly amplifying several times. At the same time, my body erupted with a huge rumble, and a powerful aura roared like a mountain flood. My mom immediately noticed the commotion, her face a mix of shock and awe. This little thing actually succeeded in cultivating so quickly. The other three were equally dumbfounded. This is too scary, right? He just got some new, unknown cultivation method, and in the blink of an eye, he's already succeeded? Su Qingyu's eyes were wide as saucers. This isn't a monster. He's a freak, isn't he? While the three were reeling in shock, my mom, ignoring her own awe, quickly focused her attention and started running her own cultivation method. As an unborn fetus, I couldn't directly draw spiritual energy from the world, but I was in a state of cultivation, and the heaven-swallowing demon palace, a product of the system, was frantically devouring the surrounding spiritual energy. Before long, the energy around me became sparse, but then more and more started surging in. I immediately understood. My mom knew I was cultivating and was helping me out. It's great to have an emperor for a mom. As time passed, the changes in my body became more and more intense. My meridians roared like dragons and tigers, and a powerful spiritual force rapidly gathered in my dantian. Soon, with a thunderous sound, Su Qingtian cried out, "He broke through! The kid broke through!" Su Qingyu's jaw dropped. This little guy actually entered the bone-tempering realm so quickly. It's his first time cultivating a real method, and he's still in the womb. My dad, meanwhile, was speechless. The shocking things this little brat had done over the past 2 days were simply too much. If outsiders knew about this, they'd probably be stunned senseless. But the changes in my body were just beginning. The spiritual energy in me continued to surge. Bone tempering 2nd level, 3rd level, 4th level, 8th level, and it showed no signs of stopping. Su Qingtian exclaimed in disbelief, "This kid is defying the heavens." From the looks of it, he's going straight for the 9th level of bone tempering. The three people in the courtyard exchanged glances, speechless. What they had seen today was just too unbelievable. If the outside world ever found out, countless people would be so upset they'd cry. It's truly a case of, comparing yourself to others will kill you with envy. Under their senses, the changes in my body still hadn't stopped. It seemed I wanted to break through to the meridian unlocking realm in one go. My dad suddenly stood up. "Chinger! Quickly stop that little brat. We can't let him enter the meridian unlocking realm like this." Su Qingtian and Su Qingyu nodded repeatedly. The bone tempering realm is about continuously refining the body. The amount of spiritual energy isn't what's most important. To seek the ultimate, you have to break the bone tempering limit. My mom, of course, knew this. Without hesitation, she cut off all my sources of power. Su Qingyu sighed in amazement. "Oh my God, this little thing is too powerful. If my sister hadn't stopped him, he would have flown straight to heaven." The other three were equally filled with emotion. They had really seen something today, but I heard everything they said. Only now did I realize there was such a thing as the bone tempering limit. It seems I can't just focus on breaking through. I need to properly temper my cultivation. My mom is an emperor, so I can't be a slouch. As I was thinking, the system's notification sound suddenly appeared. New mission released. Please break the bone tempering limit within half a month. Reward, limitless sword star. I couldn't help but complain. Is this darn system listening in on me? But the reward got me excited. With the Limitless Sword Star, I would gain the purest sense and understanding of the sword Tao. I could cut down all things from nothingness, and when facing a sword cultivator, I could even directly control their sword and turn it against them. The system finally gave me a decent cultivation method, but I'll have to put that on hold for now. I should claim the reward from the last mission first. Immediately, I issued a command. System, please grant me power and fuse with the Supreme Bone. In the next second, I felt a vast, mysterious power awaken within me. A fiery sensation surged in my chest and rushed throughout my body. A bone glowed with a dazzling golden light, and my bloodline underwent a crazy transformation, slowly taking on a hint of purple gold. I closed my eyes, patiently waiting for the process to complete. But this commotion once again startled the people outside. The four of them simultaneously sensed a mysterious power reviving within the fetus. And this time, the spectacle seemed even more terrifying than before. It was as if they were watching a horrifying entity slowly awaken. My dad stared for a long time before finally coming to his senses. "Let me see!" As he placed his hand on my mom's belly, his entire body trembled. His eyes were wide as saucers as he exclaimed, "A divine bone! It's a congenital divine bone." For a moment, all four of them were speechless. My recent actions had completely baffled them. After a while, Su Qingyu asked, "Sister, do you know what kind of bone that is?" My mom shook her head. Even as an emperor, she had never seen a divine bone like this. "This bone is extraordinary. It's causing the little one's bloodline to transform. In some ways, it's even more effective than the cleansing of my heaven and earth origin power. Even with my cultivation, I can't fully see through this divine bone. But I can guess that its potential is boundless." Su Qingtian let out a light laugh. "Now I get it. This is why the little brat can cultivate in the womb." The others also came to a realization. The strange cultivation method he had just used was most likely from this congenital divine bone. My mom concluded, "I carefully checked it just now. That cultivation method is also extremely profound. Even I find it difficult to comprehend. I'm afraid it's even more terrifying than we thought." Just as they were talking, my mom suddenly let out a soft exclamation. "This little thing seems to be causing trouble again." She clearly felt a terrifying aura rapidly awakening in her lower abdomen. In the next second, thunder boomed in the sky, and a terrifying pressure surged through the heavens, sweeping across the land. "It's the phenomenon caused by the congenital divine bone." My dad understood at once. He blinked. "Is this little brat that powerful? He's causing a phenomenon the moment he awakens?" The four people in the courtyard were all shocked. The phenomenon was so vast that it moved the surroundings for tens of thousands of miles. All the sects and powerful cultivators, big and small, in the vicinity were startled. A magnificent voice rang out from the void, from an old ancestor of a certain sect. "Is someone breaking through? No, this must be a phenomenon caused by a special physique. This commotion seems to be coming from profound Shuang Cave Heaven. Could it be related to Emperor Shuangtian?" At the same time, countless powerful divine senses spread out in the void, trying to peek at the source. However, as soon as these divine senses entered profound Shuang Cave Heaven, an extremely powerful force surged out, instantly crushing them. The old monsters who were prying immediately coughed up blood. They quickly rose into the sky and apologized loudly. "Please forgive us, Emperor Shuangtian. We meant no offense. We will never dare to do it again." My mom's cold voice echoed in the void. "I will spare you this time. If you dare to offend again, I will not be so lenient." As she spoke, she used her divine power to conceal the phenomenon, preventing outsiders from prying. The old monsters retreated one by one, but everything that happened today quickly spread. In just a few days, people within tens of millions of miles received the news. A person with a special physique had been born in profound Shuang Cave Heaven. It was very likely the child of Emperor Shuangtian and Saint Ancestor Shengshu. The ruler of an imperial dynasty instructed his subordinates, "Send people to closely watch profound Shuang Cave Heaven, but be sure not to offend the emperor's divine might. Also, prepare a generous gift. Bring out my violet spirit lantern that I have treasured for 10,000 years. When the child is born, I will personally go to offer my congratulations." Not just him, but the leaders of many other forces also started to take action. Meanwhile, inside my mom's belly, I had completed the fusion with the Supreme Bone, and the external phenomena had all dissipated. My dad said with a deadpan expression, "Well, now the whole world knows how extraordinary my son is." Su Qingtian chuckled. This little thing is causing one scene after another before he's even born. When he grows up, he'll probably turn the world upside down." Suchingu smiled teasingly. "I, for one, hope this little one is born soon. It won't be long, just 5 more months. Then you'll be his little aunt." Time flowed like water, and 5 more days passed in a flash. My dad, sitting in the garden, smiled at my mom. This little one seems to know that he needs to break the bone tempering limit. At first, my mom was worried I wouldn't be able to stop myself and would jump directly from the 9th level of bone tempering to the meridian, unlocking realms, so she had been carefully watching me for a few days, cutting off my source of power. But it was clear her worries were for nothing. I wasn't in a hurry to break through, and was instead constantly tempering my body. After she realized this, she let me cultivate freely, and the result was astonishing. In these past few days, I'd been practicing the heaven-swallowing demon palace every day, and the innate purple chi in my body had reached an extremely vast level. Even the innate purple chi of those young supreme geniuses wasn't even a 10th of mine. My mom's melodious voice rang out. "He'll be born in a little over 4 months. I hope he can advance further. Let's try to get him to break the bone tempering limit before he's 2 years old." The bone tempering limit requires repeated tempering and refinement. It can't be achieved in one go. Reaching it before the age of 2 would definitely shock the world. Hearing my mom's words, I fell into silence. The system told me to reach the bone tempering limit in half a month, but my mom's words made it sound like reaching it before the age of 2 was already an impressive feat. What the heck? I was extremely frustrated. This limit was clearly not as simple as I'd imagined. It seems I must use my mom's heaven and earth origin power to cultivate. Her power is terrifyingly potent, and if I could use it, it would be much more effective than ordinary spiritual energy. But my mom had been very strict lately and wouldn't mobilize the origin to help me cultivate. No, I'll have to wait until she cleanses me today. Even if I have to snatch it, I have to try and get some to cultivate with. A few hours later, a powerful force finally surged into my body. The moment that vast power entered me, I quickly mobilized my own strength, trying to snatch some of it. But my power hadn't even touched the heaven and earth origin before it was torn to shreds. I was instantly helpless. My mom's strength was too great, and she was concentrating on cleansing me, so she didn't notice my actions. So I stretched out my 2 tiny arms and started flailing, trying to get her attention. Sure enough, my mom soon noticed me vigorously kicking her belly. "What's gotten into this little thing today?" A moment later, my mom was astonished to find a devouring force welling up inside me, trying to snatch away her heaven and earth origin power. My mom's eyes widened, and she said angrily, "You little brat, you actually want to use my origin power to cultivate? Do you know what the consequences of that would be?" She was a bit angry. "You have such guts, you little stinker. I'm an emperor-level expert. Even a tiny wisp of my origin power is more than you can handle right now." But I just caused more of a fuss in her belly, punching it with all my might. My mom sighed. Fine. Who told you that you're my son?" With that, she let a tiny bit of her origin power be released. In the blink of an eye, the fierce, boundless, devouring power inside me appeared again and completely swallowed that wisp of heaven and earth origin. In my Dantian, it was as if a peerless demon king had awakened, and in an instant, it completely crushed that tiny bit of origin power, turning it into the purest energy. My small body absorbed all of this energy without leaving a drop behind. At the same time, my spiritual power grew by more than 10-fold. This spiritual energy then scoured and cleansed my body, and the effect was even better than the direct cleansing with the origin power. How is this possible? In the room, my mom's eyes flew open. Her peerless face was filled with shock. She never could have imagined that her origin power had actually been refined by the little one. That was heaven and earth origin. Even my dad, a saint ancestor, would have to go to great lengths to completely refine a single wisp of it, yet I had absorbed it so easily. Just what kind of cultivation method does this little guy have that it's so terrifying? My mom couldn't imagine what level of cultivation method it was, but it was definitely countless times stronger than any she had ever seen. My mom then let out a soft laugh. "It seems I've underestimated your cultivation method. This divine object truly makes even your mom a little envious." Afterwards, she continued to channel her origin power for me to refine. I was overjoyed. I rapidly refined and absorbed the immense origin power. Over the next few days, my cultivation skyrocketed. At this rate, breaking the bone tempering limit within half a month wouldn't be difficult at all. However, this process was not without its drawbacks. Origin power is a cultivator's most core strength, and its consumption was a huge drain on my mom. If she depleted it too much, it would be difficult for her to recover in a short time. Even for an emperor-level existence, it was a heavy burden. I hesitated, wondering if I should give up on this mission. My mom was consuming her origin power to help me cultivate, and it pained me to see it. But my mom sensed my thoughts. Her gentle voice echoed in my ear. "Don't worry, just cultivate. For your mom, this amount of origin power will only take a few days of cultivation to recover. Just focus on your training." With her reassurance, I let go of my worries and put my whole being into cultivating. My mom then released her full cultivation, creating a large-scale spiritual energy vortex to recover. It wasn't just the spiritual energy inside profound Shuang Cave Heaven. Even the energy from the outside world surged in. Above profound Shuang Cave Heaven, a terrifying spiritual energy vortex appeared. This sight shocked countless cultivators. Such a large-scale spiritual energy fluctuation must mean Emperor Shuangtian is tempering her fetus's body. To have an emperor go all out like this, just how terrifying is that child's talent? When he's born, he'll likely be another heaven-defying genius. For a time, the area outside profound Shuang Cave Heaven became extremely lively. Zhang Shangshu and the others didn't bother to pay attention to it. "Qing'er, you've worked so hard." Jiang Shengshu was incredibly heartbroken for his wife, but at the same time, he held huge expectations for his son. The days passed one by one. I was cultivating non-stop, and as the power in my body grew stronger, my spirit and will also became more powerful, to the point that I barely felt any fatigue. Even Su Qingqing entered a state of semi-closed-door cultivation to fully cooperate with me. With the heaven-swallowing demon palace and my mom's heaven and earth origin power, there were virtually no bottlenecks in my cultivation. The only issue was the system's tight deadline. I only had half a month, and breaking the bone tempering limit was truly no easy feat. Can't this lousy system give me a little more time? I'm just a fetus. Don't I need to rest? Even the donkeys on the production line don't work this hard. I complained inwardly while cultivating. I cultivated day and night, watching my power grow steadily. Gradually approaching the 90,000 jin mark, I was only a little over 10,000 jin away from the 108,000 jin limit, but there were less than 3 days left. This meant I had to break through this final hurdle in under 3 days to complete the mission. Because of this, I was working almost without sleep, giving it my all. This, however, made Su Qingqing a bit angry. "This little guy's will is really strong. Is he trying to break the bone tempering limit in one go?" Su Qingqing was astonished. My cultivation speed was clearly much faster than she had anticipated. Initially, she had planned for me to reach the bone tempering limit before I was 2 years old. But with me using her origin power to cultivate, my progress was breathtaking. Su Qingqing now thought it could be done in a month. But now, in less than half a month, I was already at the final stage. "This is too fast. Son, now even your own mom is starting to wonder if you're a reincarnated powerful being. All these things you're doing are just too hard to believe," Su Qingqing said with a wry smile. She then shook her head, chasing the thoughts from her mind, and continued to help me. I also focused entirely on my final sprint. Time was running out. However, in the dead of the night, a sudden accident almost interrupted my cultivation. That night, in the heavenly blue great realm, which was 3 realms away from the endless realm, a sword light suddenly shot up to the heavens, illuminating the earth. The void then trembled as a monstrous sword intent surged like a mountain flood, sweeping out in all directions. Over a dozen great realms were enveloped by this sword intent. On that day, the vast, boundless sword intent caused countless cultivators, swords to tremble in their scabbards, clanging and struggling violently. They eventually broke free from their owners, control and flew into the sky, all hurtling toward the heavenly blue realm. It was as if a supreme sword master had silently awakened there, summoning them to worship. 10,000 swords worship! This is a sign of a supreme sword body being born. A powerful sword physique has appeared in the 3,000 great realms? This phenomenon was much more powerful than the one caused by my awakening. That night, all the cultivators in more than a dozen realms were startled. Everyone was utterly shocked. Compared to the phenomenon caused by the awakening of my special physique, this sword intent eruption was far more impactful. There was no doubt that a major event had occurred in the heavenly blue realm. That night, countless eyes were fixed on the sky, watching as a sword dragon streaked across the sky, leaving a long trail of fiery light. Its terrifying sword aura tore through everything, destroying everything in its path. Even the giant spiritual energy vortex that my mom had created was shaken, showing signs of collapsing. This was a truly terrifying phenomenon that shook over a dozen great realms. At the same time, many cultivators were filled with anger and hatred. Their swords had been forcefully stolen, and they feared they'd never get them back. In particular, their life-bound swords were connected to their souls. If they were lost or destroyed, their cultivation would be severely impacted. "Who did this? Give me back my blazing sword! My Coldbreaker sword flew away too!" I can feel that it's been shattered among the countless other swords. Which family's disciple in the heavenly blue realm is this? Don't they have anyone to control this? Many people shouted, venting their frustration, but they could only yell, as they didn't know who the culprit was, and there was nowhere to appeal. It wasn't just them. A moment later, a chilling female voice was heard echoing from the endless realm. The voice wasn't loud, but it resonated throughout the surrounding dozen or so great realms. "Is the evergreen Mu family devoid of people? Do you need me to step in and help you conceal your phenomenon?" Everyone heard these words, and they were shaken. The only person who would refer to themselves as "I" in this manner was Emperor Shuangtian. Her words instantly revealed the identity of the person with the powerful sword physique, the evergreen Mu family. This was a colossal power that had existed for tens of millions of years, one of the most powerful forces in the heavenly blue realm, a terrifying existence that countless cultivators had to look up to. Its foundation was beyond imagination, and it had produced powerful experts throughout history. And today, they had given birth to a supreme sword body, which had caused such a terrifying phenomenon upon awakening. When they learned this information, the people whose swords had been stolen all fell silent. They didn't dare to make another sound. After all, compared to their life-bound swords, their lives were far more important. The evergreen Mu family was not someone they could afford to offend. They didn't even have the guts to yell anymore. But this didn't stop them from finding another way to vent their anger. It seems Emperor Shuangtian is also angry. The emperor is a taboo. No matter what happens, you shouldn't provoke the emperor's might. They even dared to steal the spiritual energy that Emperor Shuangtian was using to cultivate. They have too much guts. Affecting an emperor is an act of defiance. The phenomenon was indeed terrifying, but it was impossible for it to truly affect an emperor. The massive spiritual energy vortex above profound Shuang cave heaven, which had just shown a few signs of collapse, quickly returned to its original state. Emperor Shuangtian's previous words were merely an expression of her displeasure towards the Mu family. The disturbance was not enough to stop her process of cleansing her son. Not long after, a magnificent voice rang out from the heavenly blue realm. The Mu family had no intention of causing such a disturbance. We ask for Emperor Shuangtian's forgiveness. In a few days, this old man will personally visit to atone for our actions. This was an expert from the Mu family speaking, apologizing to Emperor Shuangtian. Another genius was born, and with a peerless phenomenon, it seems even bigger than the one I caused. I mused internally. I had felt the commotion just now. Even my mom's power had been briefly interrupted, but thankfully, my mom was strong enough that, with just a little effort, she could ignore such a phenomenon. I can't worry about that now. I have to keep cultivating. Time is running out. A moment later, I closed my eyes and returned to my cultivation. I didn't care about some supreme sword genius. As long as he didn't affect my cultivation, it was fine. Whether now or in the future, whoever dared to provoke me, I would beat their brains out. For the next 2 days, the dozen or so great realms were all abuzz with this matter. Even people from other great realms started to pay attention. The Mu family had given birth to a talent that was beyond compare. The sword phenomenon had encompassed over a dozen great realms, a scale rarely seen in all of history. The phenomenon from my awakening half a month ago was already terrifying, but this one from the Mu family was several times more so. That sword body might be even more terrifying than the unborn disciple, people said. Maybe that descendant of the evergreen Mu family will be able to completely suppress the disciple in the future. You can't say that. The disciple hasn't even been born yet. In comparison, the Mu family's genius should be quite a bit older. They can't be compared. Just as everyone was discussing, a piece of news spread from an unknown source. Like a tornado, it quickly swept through 100 great realms. Breaking news. The awakened sword body of the Mu family belongs to the contemporary family head's grandson, Mu Qingchen, who is only 7 years old. His physique is the Extinction Spirit sword body, a legendary physique from ancient times. The news caused an immediate uproar. Countless cultivators were stunned. They never imagined that the Mu family's disciple had awakened the extinction spirit sword body. It was rumored that in the distant ancient era, a person with the extinction spirit sword body had truly broken through the ultimate limits, achieving the rank of sword emperor. He had even fought in the ninth heaven and cut down a true immortal with a single strike. This time, even the experts of Hidden Sword Mountain must be unable to sit still, people exclaimed. Whenever the topic of swords came up, people in the Great Desolate Realm could never avoid mentioning Hidden Sword Mountain, a lineage left behind by a sword emperor. It was the strongest sword Dao force in existence. It was home to a group of madmen who had no interest in other cultivation methods. All they did was stare at their swords, spending their entire lives devoted to the study of the sword. But there was no denying that the strength of Hidden Sword Mountain was revered by all cultivators. They wielded their swords with unrivaled skill in attack and slaughter. As people had guessed, after the extinction spirit sword body phenomenon appeared, experts from Hidden Sword Mountain immediately set off for the heavenly blue realm. Such a sword genius in the evergreen Mu family was worthy of the entire Hidden Sword Mountain dedicating all its resources to his cultivation. Compared to the extinction spirit sword body, the disciple might not have the advantage, people said. Perhaps there will truly be a battle between the disciple and the extinction spirit sword body in the future. Many people couldn't help but feel excited, hoping to see that day when the disciple and the extinction spirit sword body would clash. The evergreen Mu family was located in a magnificent great city in the heavenly blue realm, a city with a population of hundreds of millions and extremely prosperous. On the day the extinction spirit sword body awakened, someone heard a hearty laugh from the Mu family that shook the sky. I never imagined that my grandson, Mu Nantian, would be so extraordinary. After 7 years of being ordinary, he has now stunned everyone. I ask of all the younger generations of this time, born or unborn, who can compare to him? The words were full of pride. The meaning of his words naturally made people think of me. It seemed that even the Mu family felt their extinction spirit sword body was definitely stronger than the still unborn disciple. Of course, I was unaware of all this outside talk. Even if I knew, I wouldn't care. Extinction Spirit Sword Body? I'm a cheat mode player. How dare you compare yourself to me? If you really provoke me, whether you're an Extinction Spirit Sword Body or an Extinction Soul Sword Body, you're just another dish on the menu. You're only fit to be nourishment for my heaven-swallowing demon palace. If not, how about you try my upper realm finger light for a taste? I've finally broken the 100,000 Jin mark. By this time tomorrow, breaking the bone tempering limit will definitely not be a problem. I could truly feel my strength growing rapidly. I had already broken the 100,000 Jin mark and had over a day left, which was more than enough time to complete the mission. This incredible speed shocked both Su Qingqing and Jiang Shangshu. Jiang Shangshu, in particular, was filled with mixed emotions: shock, awe, excitement, and a hint of jealousy. This little brat is gonna break the bone tempering limit in half a month? Only half a month. He remembered that it took him nearly half a year to do the same. My son is more than 10 times faster than me. This hit Jiang Shangshu's ego a bit, but he was mostly just happy. The stronger his son was, the greater the credit belonged to him. Who told him he's my son? Jiang Shangshu's. Time continued to flow, and soon it was the next day. Today was my final hurdle. The immense spiritual energy vortex outside profound Shuang Cave Heaven covered the entire sky and was spinning faster than ever. The energy condensed into rain that fell steadily. Outside the cave heaven, countless cultivators who had been camping there were ecstatic. Many of their cultivations soared, and their strength increased dramatically. They were all grateful to Emperor Shuangtian and her unborn disciple. Everything outside profound Shuang Cave Heaven was harmonious. Inside the cave heaven, nothing major was happening. Jiang Shengshu, Su Qingtian, and Su Qingyu were gathered in the courtyard, quietly waiting for my grand success. But just then, the void rippled, and a figure stepped out of nothingness. This person was none other than the contemporary head of the Mu family, Mu Nantian, a peerless expert who had cultivated for tens of thousands of years and was a saint ancestor. But despite being such a powerful figure, as he walked into the courtyard, his aura instantly receded. Facing Jiang Shengshu, a fellow saint ancestor, he actually bowed deeply. Mu Nantian is here today to atone to Emperor Shuangtian and Saint Ancestor Shengshu. The two other middle-aged men behind him bowed as well. They all knew this bow wasn't just for Saint Ancestor Shengshu. Most importantly, it was to apologize to Emperor Shuangtian. Jiang Shengshu smiled and, With a slight lift of his hand, Mu Nantian was held up by an invisible force, allowing him to stand straight again. Mu family head, there's no need to be so polite. A trivial matter like this is not worth mentioning. It's just that my wife was doing a cleansing for our son at the time and was a bit bothered. Now that the matter is over, there's no need to take it to heart. Jiang Shengshu waved his hand and then gestured for Mu Nantian to sit, pouring him a cup of tea. Ha ha ha, Emperor Shuangtian is magnanimous. That puts my mind at ease. Saint Ancestor Shengshu has been so kind, not holding a grudge. It truly makes this old man feel ashamed, Mu Nantian said with a hearty laugh, a smile of unconcealed smugness on his face. Jiang Shengshu chatted with him casually for a while. Su Qingtian and Su Qingyu stayed by his side without interjecting. Soon, the topic of conversation inevitably shifted to me and the extinction spirit sword body. This old man has long heard that the disciple is a divine prodigy. He awakened a special physique before birth and caused a world-shaking phenomenon. In this old man's opinion, the disciple will one day reach the pinnacle of the sword Dao, possessing a sharpness no less than his mother's. Mu Nantian started with a grand compliment. Even Jiang Shengshu felt a sense of immense pleasure hearing such praise from an expert no weaker than himself. He took a sip of tea, smiling faintly and saying a few modest words. Then Mu Nantian suddenly sighed. Speaking of which, it's quite a shame. Although my grandson awakened the extinction spirit sword body, he is still inferior to the disciple. With this, he continued. This old man must once again apologize to Emperor Shuangtian and Saint Ancestor Shengshu. That day, the phenomenon came too suddenly. It covered over a dozen great realms, and my Mu family couldn't react in time, which is why we offended the Emperor's might. In the end, several of our old ancestors had to work together, and with great effort, we barely managed to suppress it. Jiang Shengshu's action of raising his teacup paused. Something about this just doesn't sit right, he thought. He's saying his grandson is inferior to my son, but the underlying message is that the sword body phenomenon was so vast that it almost couldn't be controlled by their entire family? Goodness! First he lavishes praise on my son, then he elevates his own grandson even higher. This old coot isn't here to apologize. He's here to show off. In an instant, an unknown fire flared up in Jiang Shengshu's heart. Who was he? He was a top saint ancestor of this era, and his wife was an emperor who was invincible across the realms. How dare this old coot, Mu Nantian, put on such airs in front of him? Jiang Shengshu was about to snap when a huge rumble suddenly erupted from the room behind him. A powerful force burst forth, a force that was as vast and overwhelming as a raging flood. In Jiang Shengshu and Mu Nantian's eyes, a brilliant orb of light appeared in the room. Under the release of this power, strands of invisible heaven and earth rules were abruptly severed. This is the bone-tempering limit. Someone has broken the bone-tempering limit, Mu Nantian said in a stunned voice. But Emperor Shuangtian is in the room. Who could have just broken the bone-tempering limit? This makes no sense. Mu Nantian was completely baffled. But in one instant, a flash of inspiration hit him, and he was struck as if by lightning, frozen in place. The person who broke the bone-tempering limit could be the disciple? Mu Nantian turned his head abruptly to stare at Jiang Shengshu. Jiang Shengshu, collecting himself, put on a calm smile. Mu family head, there's no need to be surprised. It's just a small commotion from my son. He picked up the teapot and refilled Mu Nantian's cup, his demeanor as leisurely as could be. It was as if his son breaking the bone-tempering limit was nothing more than a piece of cake to him. It's really the disciple? But he hasn't been born yet? Mu Nantian was completely dumbfounded. He couldn't wrap his head around the idea that the disciple had actually broken the bone-tempering limit. He's still in the womb. Can someone tell me what the hell is going on? Has this ever happened in all of history? I'm completely dumbfounded. The outside world said the disciple's physique was strong, and Emperor Shuangtian was just using spiritual energy to temper his body. But why would Emperor Shuangtian need to use so much spiritual energy to temper his body? Mu Nantian said in a sudden realization. So that's it. Now everything was clear. The disciple had started cultivating in the womb and had broken the bone-tempering limit in one fell swoop, a baby that was only 5 or 6 months along. Is this even human? Is this still a human? For a moment, Mu Nantian's mind was racing. His grandson's extinction spirit sword body, while rare, had appeared many times throughout history. But cultivating in the womb and breaking the bone-tempering limit, this was truly unheard of. Across from him, Jiang Shengshu sat with a composed smile, calmly sipping his tea, looking as serene as can be. But inside, he was having the time of his life. My son is really doing me proud. I was just about to lose my temper, too. So, you're here to get your revenge, are you? Jiang Shengshu thought to himself. Mu Nantian, you came to my house to show off, didn't you? You think your extinction spirit sword body is stronger than my son? Come on, let's see what you think of my son's little performance. Or why don't you bring your grandson out for a show and tell? He calmly watched as Mu Nantian's expression shifted back and forth, not interrupting him. One of the Mu family members, seeing the look on his patriarch's face, seemed to understand something. After some thought, he secretly sent a mental message to Mu Nantian. Patriarch, are you perhaps worried that our divine son is not as good as the disciple? He transmitted. Mu Nantian looked up at him. The man steadied himself and continued, I don't think you need to worry about that. The disciple is, after all, the son of an emperor. His bloodline is strong, and who can guess an emperor's methods? While it's shocking that the disciple can cultivate in the womb, who knows if Emperor Shuangtian used some great divine power to make it so? Besides, just look at the scale of the previous phenomenon. The divine sons was several times larger than the disciples. They're not even on the same level. Moreover, the sword Dao is known for its offense. No matter how strong the disciple's special physique is, he won't necessarily be stronger than the sword divine son. Hearing these words, Mu Nantian fell into a brief contemplation. That actually makes a lot of sense. With Emperor Shuangtian's power, it was not impossible for her to help a baby cultivate in the womb. And the size of a phenomenon was indeed, to a certain extent, an indicator of the physique's strength. In that case, my grandson, Mu Qingchen, is definitely not inferior to the disciple. Thinking this, Mu Nantian's mind was instantly at ease. His confidence returned. He let out a hearty laugh, took a sip of tea, and then looked at Jiang Shengshu, giving him a huge round of praise. The disciple is truly extraordinary and peerless. Cultivating in the womb is unheard of and unimaginable. If this matter were to get out, I'm afraid the entire 3,000 great realms would be shaken. Jiang Shengshu just smiled, not saying a word. At that moment, the door to the room opened, and a beautiful, otherworldly figure stepped out. It was none other than Su Qingqing. Jiang Shengshu immediately got up to help her. Mu Nantian also stood up, and with the two men behind him, he respectfully bowed and said, Emperor Shuangtian. Su Qingqing simply gave a nod, gesturing for him to sit. I have come here today. First, to apologize to Emperor Shuangtian. Second, I am here to celebrate the birth of the Mu family's extinction spirit sword body and to invite Emperor Shuangtian and Saint Ancestor Shengshu to attend the celebration banquet. I hope the two of you can find the time to honor us with your presence, Mu Nantian said. He then flipped his hand and took out a golden invitation, placing it on the table in front of Su Qingqing. It is indeed a joyous occasion for a Mu family genius to be born, Su Qing said, glancing at the invitation. Then she said calmly, but is the extinction spirit sword body truly so powerful that it can guarantee an emperor-level achievement? If it can't become an emperor, then in my eyes, it's nothing more than an ant. Upon hearing her words, Mu Nantian immediately became modest again. Oh no. While my grandson Qingchen's talent is incredibly rare, he is still leagues behind Emperor Shuangtian and the disciple. He said the words, but his expression didn't show the slightest hint of it, which once again made Jiang Shengshu's blood boil. This old coot is getting more and more excited. Meanwhile, inside the womb, I had a new idea. This sword genius, his physique is called the Extinction Spirit Sword Body. I wonder how it compares to the Immaculate Sword Heart, the reward I just got. System, little elf, fuse the Immaculate Sword Heart for me now. As soon as I gave the command, my heart suddenly gave a powerful, resounding beat. It was like a heavy hammer striking the great Dao, creating a massive, booming sound. In an instant, the entire world trembled and became deadly silent. At that moment, the people in the courtyard all felt their hearts skip a beat. Their eyes involuntarily turned to Su Qingqing's belly. Su Qingqing, Jiang Shengshu, and Mu Nantian all felt a sense of confusion. They were just chatting. Why was that little thing causing a commotion again? What was he up to this time? But before they could think too much, in the next second, a strange power began to frantically grow and spread silently. Mu Nantian's teacup made a click sound, and tiny cracks appeared all over it. Then, With another heartbeat, sharp, piercing sounds of swords resonated from the void. The stone table and chairs in front of them, the surrounding buildings, and the courtyard walls all cracked open like eggshells. The ground beneath their feet shattered like a dried-up riverbed. All the cracks were smooth and clean, as if they had been cut by a sharp sword. The people in the courtyard stared blankly at the scene, unable to react for a moment, but as they pondered, my heart continued to beat powerfully. Each beat was like it was touching a certain heavenly rule. An invisible power rippled through the void, and terrifying cracks spread rapidly from the ground in all directions. The sound of cracks and snaps connected in a continuous chain. The mountain where the small courtyard was located was completely covered in the blink of an eye. Whether it was the mountainside, the ground, the trees, the grass, or even the spiritual treasures, all of it developed cracks under an unspeakable force, and their life force was utterly destroyed. Not only that, but a monstrous sword intent suddenly surged in the hearts of the 4 experts in the courtyard. This sword intent was not under their control. Instead, it charged violently, trying to shatter their hearts. But for these experts, a slight circulation of their power was enough to suppress it. Still, this left them infinitely shocked. This is sword intent," Mu Nantian exclaimed, trying to say something. But before he could finish, there was a loud boom! A cloud of smoke and dust instantly rose, obscuring the sky and enveloping the few people. In the next moment, they reappeared in the air, not far away. But where the courtyard and the mountain had been, there was now nothing but dust and smoke. After a long while, Jiang Shengshu suddenly shouted in frustration, "That little brat tore down the house!" He glared fiercely at Su Qingqing's belly, his eyes full of helplessness. "What's going on now? Why is our home gone for no reason?" At that moment, the sword intent had already disappeared from the world. A shield of light appeared around Su Qingqing, and a powerful, boundless sword light swirled within it, wanting to break free. Mu Nantian saw this and knew that Emperor Shuangtian had acted to immediately conceal the phenomenon, so the bizarre scene from before could no longer be seen. At this moment, Mu Nantian's eyes were filled with uncontrollable horror and disbelief. That sword intent just now, it was the Immaculate Sword Heart. It was definitely the Immaculate Sword Heart, Mu Nantian said in a deep voice. He had felt it very clearly. The sword intent just now was too terrifying. It had acted in a formless manner, and even an expert like him felt a clear sword intent surge in his heart. This was definitely no ordinary phenomenon. His Mu family had just awakened an extinction spirit sword body, so Mu Nantian had recently made a point of studying all things related to the sword Dao. If his judgment was correct, the disciple, still in the womb, had just awakened the legendary Immaculate Sword Heart. Immaculate Sword Heart? Su Qingtian, Su Qingyu, and the other 2 Mu family members were confused. They knew little about it. It was Su Qingqing who spoke up slowly, explaining everything. Yes, it is the Immaculate Sword Heart, a sword Dao physique that has been extinct since ancient times. The Immaculate Sword Heart represents a flawless and lucid sword heart. The Immaculate has the purest sense of the sword Dao. The greatest strength of the Immaculate Sword Heart is its ability to turn will into a sword, cutting down all things in a formless manner. This means the Immaculate Sword Heart can even control a swordsman's own sword intent to counter their opponent. A swordsman of a similar cultivation level would only be able to perform at half their strength when facing an Immaculate Sword Heart. If the Extinction Spirit sword body cultivates to its peak and becomes the world's strongest form sword, then the Immaculate Sword Heart will ultimately become the most terrifying formless sword. Hearing these words, everyone was horrified. The phenomenon from its awakening alone had such a terrifying result. If Emperor Shuangtian hadn't acted in time to conceal it, a large number of the surrounding great realms would have suffered. That little brat almost caused a catastrophe. Why did he suddenly awaken the Immaculate Sword Heart? Jiang Shengshu was completely baffled. Su Qingtian and Su Qingyu couldn't figure it out either. This little guy was just too full of surprises. But Su Qingqing's lips curled into a smile. The stronger her little one was, the happier she was. His heaven-defying actions were truly endless. But my son, this isn't very nice. Are you not going to leave any room for the other geniuses of this era to live? Su Qingqing couldn't help but feel sorry for all the geniuses of the 3,000 Great Realms who were of the same generation as her son. It was unimaginable how desperate they would be to have to compete with such a monster in the future. At that moment, the Mu family member who had not spoken before suddenly asked a question. Patriarch, how does this immaculate sword heart compare to our divine son's extinction spirit sword body? As soon as he said that, Mu Nantian's old face turned as black as a donkey's, but Jiang Shengshu seemed not to notice Mu Nantian's displeasure and cheerfully answered for him. The extinction spirit sword body is also a swordsman, so what do you think? Jiang Shengshu said with a wide smile. At this moment, he had completely forgotten that his house had been demolished. How could a mere material object made of rare treasures compare to his son's peerless sword heart? The Mu family member who had asked the question paused. He finally understood. While both the Extinction Spirit sword body and the Immaculate Sword Heart were ultimate sword physiques, the Extinction Spirit sword body's power would be greatly diminished when facing the Immaculate Sword Heart. So that's how it is, he said to himself, nodding. When he looked up, he saw his patriarch's glare, as if he wanted to eat him alive, and immediately shrank his neck, not daring to speak again. Mu Nantian stared at him with a fierce look in his eyes, his knuckles cracking. At that moment, Mu Nantian wanted nothing more than to smash the man's head with a single palm. As Jiang Shengshu looked at Mu Nantian's expression, he felt an unspeakable sense of elation deep in his heart. This old coot, weren't you just showing off your Extinction Spirit sword body in front of me? My son immediately used his bone tempering limit to suppress your arrogant demeanor. You still weren't convinced and continued to show off, and now my son has directly revealed the Immaculate Sword Heart to you. Are you satisfied now? After a long time, Mu Nantian finally managed to compose himself. His gaze fell on Su Qingqing's slightly swollen belly. At this point, how could Mu Nantian dare to look down on the disciple? The bloodline of an emperor truly is not something an ordinary person can fathom, he thought, with a long, internal sigh. He then forced a strained smile and cupped his hands to Su Qingqing and Jiang Shengshu. The disciple is truly a master of creation. This Mu can only feel admiration. Jiang Shengshu, on the other hand, gave a few deep compliments to the Extinction Spirit sword body, but his expression was as fake as could be. Mu Nantian was too embarrassed to say anything. He truly didn't want to stay in profound Shuang Cave heaven for another moment. Having disturbed Emperor Shuangtian and Saint Ancestor Shengshu, this Mu will take his leave now. I hope you will honor us with your presence at the banquet on the first day of next month. Mu family head, you are too kind. If my wife and I have some free time, we will certainly drop by. Jiang Shengshu responded politely. With that, Mu Nantian left decisively. But compared to his proud arrival, his departure seemed quite forlorn. Jiang Shengshu felt an immense sense of satisfaction. This old coot came to my place to show off, and he got what he deserved. Serves you right, Jiang Shengshu chuckled to himself. He then reached out and gently stroked Su Qingqing's belly. This little brat really is a great certificate of my awesomeness. Inside the womb, Jiang Shengshu's words made me burst out laughing. My dad is quite the schemer too. I had also learned about everything that happened from their conversations. I knew I had nearly caused a catastrophe, but thankfully, I had my mom to clean up after me. Suddenly, the system notification sounded again. Mission 1. Please complete the mission objective of attending the celebration banquet for the Extinction Spirit sword body. Mission reward, 5 lightning meridians. Mission 2. The Great Realm is full of powerful individuals and geniuses. To become a world-shaking titan, one must break the ultimate limits to pressure all under heaven. Please complete the mission objective of creating a new bone-tempering limit miracle within half a month. Mission reward, Golden Wing Rock Talent Rune. 2 missions at once? I was taken aback. The system actually wants me to attend a banquet? I knew from my parents' conversation that they didn't plan on going to the Mu family's banquet. That was going to be tricky. Never mind that, I'll look at the next mission first. Create a new bone-tempering limit miracle. I pondered this phrase for a while before I understood. It wanted me to create a new, unprecedented miracle, something that would surpass all the achievements of ancient sages and titans. My heart burned with excitement at the thought of it. In addition, the rewards for these 2 missions were very tempting. The 5 lightning meridians and the Golden Wing Rock Talent Rune were both rare and great treasures. I grinned happily. Cultivation. I'll focus on cultivation first. As for the banquet, I'll figure that out. After I complete this mission, there's still plenty of time. I'll just find a way to get my mom to take me. I didn't want to waste a single moment and immediately entered a state of cultivation again. The system's deadline was again only half a month. I knew that after the first bone tempering limit, Every single increase in power was incredibly difficult. This was a hurdle that countless ancient experts had never been able to overcome, and for me, it was a huge challenge. But with the heaven-swallowing demon palace, I was very confident. I immediately activated it, releasing its terrifying, devouring power to absorb my mom's heaven and earth origin. From this moment on, I began my charge toward a new bone-tempering limit. Outside, Su Qingqing and Jiang Shengchu quickly noticed the commotion. They were both surprised. Didn't that little brat just break the bone-tempering limit? Why is he cultivating again? Su Qingqing felt a sense of helplessness. She had just finished cooperating with him for half a month and was about to take some time to recover. Yet the little guy had just broken a limit and then awakened the immaculate sword heart, and now he was cultivating again. Can't you just take a break for a while? It seems I won't be getting any rest soon. But she smiled. If my son wants to cultivate, then so be it. What else can I do? He's my son, after all. And since their house had been demolished, and profound Shuang Cave Heaven was large with plenty of buildings, Su Qingqing simply found another grand hall and entered it. She fully unleashed her cultivation to absorb spiritual energy, and the spiritual energy vortex outside, which had just dissipated, reappeared, becoming even more terrifying. It looked like a bottomless black hole, drawing in spiritual energy from dozens of realms. Son, you really do get me excited, Jiang Shangshu exclaimed, filled with anticipation. I, as his dad, must be more composed. It's not a good look to be so easily shocked. From now on, no matter what crazy thing this little brat does, I won't show such an exaggerated reaction, as if I've never seen the world. He then set up a new stone table and chairs outside the hall and brewed some tea for himself. He wore a mysterious smile, like a worldly expert, exuding an air of extreme calmness and composure. He just sat there, quietly waiting for that day to come. On the 15th day, early in the morning, a figure suddenly flew in from afar. Ha ha ha, I just got back and I hear my grandson has started cultivating in the womb and even broke the bone-tempering limit. Shengshu, is this true? The figure landed, revealing a man of about 50. He had features very similar to Jiang Shengshu's, and even at his age, he was incredibly handsome and charismatic. This was Jiang Shengshu's father, Jiang Taishu, my grandpa. Father, you're back! Jiang Shengshu stood up from his chair, smiling happily. He proceeded to tell his father about all my shocking deeds over the past 10 days. Jiang Taishu's jaw dropped in disbelief, seeing the ever-changing expressions on his father's face. Jiang Shengshu felt an immense sense of satisfaction. Ha ha ha, good! I've always said, how could my grandson, Jiang Taishu's grandson, have an ordinary physique? After a long time, Jiang Taishu burst into a hearty laugh. He was incredibly excited. At this moment, he wanted nothing more than to announce to the whole world, look, open your eyes and look! This is my grandson, Jiang Taishu's grandson. Which of your descendants from those ancient holy lands, immortal dynasties, prosperous empires, and long-lived families can compare to him? Jiang Shengshu simply smiled beside him, not saying a word. Father, you might not believe this, but over the past half-month, Qingqing has been helping him cultivate the entire time. Hearing this, Jiang Taishu's eyebrows shot up. His eyes once again showed extreme shock. Qingqing, is she really carrying a fetus? Or is she carrying some kind of monster? Jiang Shengshu just watched him, smiling happily. He calmly sat down at the stone table, motioned for Jiang Taishu to sit, and poured him a cup of tea. He then poured one for himself and leisurely started drinking. The father and son sat there, one completely stunned and the other utterly composed. And it was at that very moment, a powerful, unrivaled aura suddenly erupted from the hall. A series of rumbles echoed from the surrounding void, and a vast spiritual energy poured out like a mountain flood. It was a new bone-tempering limit, outside the grand hall of profound Shuang Cave Heaven. Jiang Shengshu and Jiang Taishu sat like two wooden stakes. Their faces were petrified, their expressions frozen. Jiang Shengshu's divine sense seeped into the hall, and he sensed a scene that horrified him. This is a new bone-tempering limit. That little brat actually did it. After a very, very long time, until all the phenomena had dissipated, they finally turned to each other. They saw an unconcealed look of shock in each other's eyes. Ha ha ha! That little brat did it in just half a month. He created a new bone-tempering limit. This is a new miracle. My son, Jiang Shengshu's son, is just that good. Jiang Taishu's eyes also grew wider and wider, as if he wanted to pop them out of his head. He had just arrived and heard about my various magical deeds, And now, the little guy had created a new bone-tempering miracle right in front of him. Just as Jiang Taishu was reeling from the shock, a beautiful woman suddenly walked out from the void. It was Su Qingqing, with her big belly. Qingqing, you've really worked hard for this little guy. Jiang Taishu approached her with concern. Su Qingqing looked a bit haggard. She bowed to Jiang Taishu and said it was nothing. Looking at her pregnant belly, Jiang Taishu's eyes were full of satisfaction. "Oh!" he suddenly exclaimed, slapping his head as if he just remembered something. He flipped his hand, and a pouch-like object appeared in his palm. "I was so busy being amazed, I almost forgot about this. Come, come, come. Look at the good thing I brought back for my grandson." Jiang Taishu opened the pouch, and a brilliant light shot out. A bird, about half the height of a person, with a sharp cry, flew out of the pouch. It spread its wings and was about to fly into the sky. "You beast! You want to run? Just stay here obediently and be my grandson's mount when he's born." Jiang Taishu chuckled. He waved his hand, sending out a beam of light that grabbed the bird and brought it back. Jiang Zhengju and Su Qingjing also walked over to examine the bird. Its whole body was black, and its feathers were tough, as hard as divine iron, and gleamed with a metallic sheen. Its eyes were exceptionally sharp, flickering with divine light. Even when restrained, it struggled and resisted, as if it could devour heaven and earth. "Father, you actually caught a heaven-swallowing sparrow chick? You found one of these primordial species?" Jiang Shengshu cried out in disbelief, immediately recognizing the bird. In ancient times, the heaven-swallowing sparrow was a name that shook the world and struck fear into countless people. Even an adolescent heaven-swallowing sparrow could swallow an entire city of tens of millions of people. A fully grown one, however, had the power to devour heaven and earth itself, earning it the title of, quote, primordial demon rock. The small bird before them was indeed a heaven-swallowing sparrow chick, a true descendant of the primordial demon rock. This time, even Su Qingqing was slightly surprised. The young of an ancient species was not easy to capture, and she hadn't expected her father-in-law to get his hands on one. "Ha ha ha! It took me a lot of trouble to catch this little beast. My grandson is going to love it when he's born," Jiang Taishu said, overjoyed. He imagined a young primordial demon rock growing up with his grandson, carrying him on its back through the skies. Su Qingqing and Jiang Shengshu were also very satisfied. Such a primordial species was incredibly valuable. Many great powers in the outside world would surely be willing to pay a hefty price for it, but they of course would never trade it. Wasn't it much better to keep it as a mount for their son? Grandpa's mount seems pretty awesome. Riding a demon rock through heaven and earth in the future, the thought alone is so cool. Flying on my own is cool, but riding a fierce bird is on another level. With this thought, I became even more excited. Just then, a cold scoff echoed from the distant sky. "Jiang Taishu, did you just catch some random bird to try and fool people with?" The moment the words fell, my ears perked up. I recognized the voice. It belonged to my mom's father, my maternal grandpa Su Yunfeng. 2 months ago, my grandpa had gone off to find a mount, and my maternal grandpa had left profound Shuang Cave heaven at roughly the same time, also saying he was going to catch a mount for me. It was clear they were in a competition. Thinking of this, I laughed to myself. Ha ha ha, Grandpa is back. With these two old men together, there's going to be a great show. I couldn't help but rub my hands together. Without a doubt, these two old rivals were about to put on a great performance. The moment he appeared, Jiang Shengshu's heart sank as if it had been squeezed hard. He glanced at his own father. This is going to be bad. Even Su Qingqing showed a hint of a helpless, wry smile. These two old men had been rivals for over 100 years. They had met in their youth, and neither would submit to the other. They would argue every time they met. But fate was a funny thing, and after all those years of rivalry, they ended up becoming in-laws. This was also why Su Yanfeng had almost demolished the entire Jiang family back then. His precious daughter was being stolen by a little brat from the Jiang family. Of course, he wouldn't stand for it. But with Su Qingqing's insistence, Old Man Su eventually had to hold his nose and agree. He had originally thought that since they were family now, there was no need to fight with Jiang Taishu anymore, and they should shake hands and make peace. Who would have thought that as soon as the young couple was married, Jiang Taishu would start gloating? "What? Your precious daughter is now a member of my Jiang family." This had infuriated Su Yunfeng, and their rivalry only intensified. Now, whenever they met, they were sure to argue, and no one could stop them unless it turned into a real fight. Thinking of this, Su Qingqing and Jiang Shengshu both got a headache. As soon as Su Yunfeng arrived, he glanced at Jiang Taishu and then at the restrained, heaven-swallowing sparrow. He sneered, his face filled with disdain. "I thought you'd found some kind of divine beast for my grandson. Turns out, it's just a little sparrow." Su Yunfeng's face was full of contempt. Jiang Shengshu and Su Qingqing were speechless. A dignified descendant of the primordial demon rock was just a little sparrow in his mouth. Hearing this, I, in the womb, couldn't stop laughing. Outside the hall, Jiang Taishu immediately erupted. He glared fiercely and said loudly, "Su Yunfeng, are you looking for a fight? Come on, let me see what kind of divine beast you found for my grandson as a mount." He gestured towards Su Yunfeng, his tone extremely provocative. "You call what I found a little sparrow? Fine, I won't argue with you yet. Let's see what you found first." "Heh, the mount I found for my grandson is naturally something you can't compare to. You both better take a good look." With that, Su Yunfeng waved his hand, and a flash of lightning appeared. Accompanied by a brilliant white light, a huge flying beast materialized. Its body was probably 10 times the size of the heaven-swallowing sparrow. The beast was completely white, its feathers as dense as white jade. Arcs of electricity crackled around it, a manifestation of its lightning power. The lightning's glow made the flying beast look incredibly majestic. "A green cloud thunder goose!" Jiang Shengshu and Su Qingqing couldn't help but exclaim. It was another ancient species. Had these two old men flipped the nests of the primordial species? It wasn't enough to bring back a heaven-swallowing sparrow. Now, they had a young green cloud thunder goose as well. In ancient times, the green cloud thunder goose was just as famous. A green cloud thunder goose could command the power of lightning. A single flap of a grown one's wings could summon lightning as thick as a mountain, capable of splitting a primordial divine mountain in half. This was another terrifying divine beast, whose power was no less than the heaven-swallowing sparrows. However, the green cloud thunder goose was much gentler, and its nature was far less violent. Grandpa's mount seems pretty good too, I thought in the womb. The heaven-swallowing sparrow and the green cloud thunder goose were a perfect match. One black, one white, one fierce, one gentle. I've decided! For fighting and brawling, I'll take the heaven-swallowing sparrow. We'll kill anyone we meet. For dates with pretty ladies, I'll ride the green cloud thunder goose. It'll be both romantic and impressive. Simply perfect, I chuckled, my little plans clicking into place. Outside, Su Yunfeng held his head high, his face full of arrogance. How about it? This green cloud thunder goose is pretty good, right? There's no more suitable mount for my grandson. He had put a lot of effort into getting this young green cloud thunder goose, but Jiang Taishu couldn't help but let out a snort of laughter. Ha ha, Su Yunfeng, are you trying to make me die laughing? I thought you'd found some amazing divine beast, but it's just a wild goose. At this, Su Qingqing and Jiang Shengshu felt like spitting blood. One called a heaven-swallowing sparrow a little sparrow, and the other called a green cloud thunder goose a wild goose. These were both primordial species. Did they have no pride? Were primordial divine beasts and fierce beasts really so pathetic? There was no one like these two old men. As they were speechless, Jiang Taishu and Su Yunfeng started arguing. Jiang Taishu, open your eyes and see clearly. This is a green cloud thunder goose, not some wild goose, like you said. Are you saying your eyesight is bad, Su Yunfeng? This is a heaven-swallowing sparrow, not the little sparrow you called it. A heaven-swallowing sparrow, do you hear me? The majestic primordial demon rock? My green cloud thunder goose is much more powerful than that thing of yours? What heaven-swallowing sparrow? It's just a black lump. Did you dig it up from a coal mine? Does it even suit my grandson's status? My grandson, Jiang Taishu's grandson, should naturally be majestic and awe-inspiring. A gentle wild goose doesn't suit his status. Bah! Majestic and awe-inspiring? I'd say ominous and gloomy is more like it. You should just go and rest. Don't let that ugly black sparrow sully my grandson's eyes. And you have the nerve to talk about me with your big white goose? You should just use it to make some soup instead. At least it can nourish my grandson's body and have some value. The argument escalated, and their faces turned red with anger. Jiang Shengshu stood by, flustered, trying to say something, but the two old men ignored him completely. They continued to argue heatedly, giving him no chance to speak. Jiang Taishu, I get to decide what my grandson's mount is. He's my blood relative from the Jiang family. He has the last name. Jiang, do you understand? I'll just have him take my daughter's last name. Su, let's see if your son dares to say a single word against it. Quote, Su Yunfeng, you're looking for a fight, aren't you? Do you want to go a few rounds with me? Go on then. Do you think I'm scared of you? Come on, come on. Let's see if I don't beat you until you can't find your own teeth. I listened to all this from the womb, and I couldn't help but want to laugh out loud. Whenever these two old men got together, it was utter chaos, but it was fascinating to listen to. It at least helped pass the time in the boring womb. I sighed inwardly. As a spectator, if only I had some melon seeds, a drink, fried chicken, and popcorn, it would be a perfect scene. The two men rolled up their sleeves, their auras clashing, and it looked like they were about to fight. Jiang Shengshu braced himself and went forward to mediate, but the two old men glared at him at the same time, their looks as fierce as can be. It was clear that if he said one more word, they'd take him out first. Jiang Shengshu immediately backed down. He couldn't afford to offend either of them. One was his father, and the other was his father-in-law. Jiang Shengshu, a dignified saint ancestor, had a powerful cultivation, but couldn't hold his head high in front of these two old men. Wait, I'm even more obedient in front of Su Qingqing. I'm the lowest one in this family. This thought made Jiang Shengshu feel incredibly helpless. Life is truly as lonely as the snow. Fathers, please stop arguing. Both the heaven-swallowing sparrow and the green-cloud thunder goose are very strong and very good. How about we let the little one decide which one he likes after he's born? My mother, Su Qingqing, stepped in and brought me into the argument. At the mention of me, the two old men immediately withdrew their auras and stopped bickering. Ha ha ha! Have you decided on a name for my grandson? To answer, father, your grandson's name has already been chosen. It's Jiang Yuhian. That's a great name. It perfectly fits my grandson's temperament and status. Jiang Taishu and Su Yunfeng immediately broke into smiles. They were both very satisfied with the name. Jiang Shengshu and Su Qingqing exchanged a look and smiled wryly. The little guy's treatment was truly special. Just a name was enough to get the two old rivals to stop fighting. Wasn't that right? He was still in the womb, and these two rivals were already running off to find a mount for him. Good, good, good. My grandson has shown his extraordinary nature even before he's born. He will surely be even more glorious when he arrives. At that time, we will let the heaven-swallowing sparrow chick grow up with him and be his footrest, Jiang Taishu said with a happy smile. But no sooner had he finished speaking than the atmosphere outside the hall changed again. Sure enough, Su Yunfeng's eyes widened. Who said my grandson would choose that little sparrow? If he chooses, he'll definitely choose my green cloud thunder goose. A wave of anger surged in Jiang Taishu's heart, and he refused to back down. That big white goose of yours, I think you should just stew it. I bet it won't even fit in a single pot. Quote, Jiang Taishu, say that again. Do you believe I'll scatter the ashes of your little sparrow right now? Su Yanfang, I dare you to try. I'll beat you until your own mother doesn't recognize you. You want to fight, is that it? Jiang Taishu, do you have the guts to challenge me? I'll fight. Do you think I'm scared? Let's see how I teach you a lesson today. As they started to get ready to fight again, Jiang Shengshu and Su Qingqing were speechless. Who could possibly control these two old men? They both rubbed their temples, feeling helpless. I, in the womb, was also surprised. Wow, they're gonna fight again. I like watching a good show, but I don't actually want them to fight for real. One's my grandpa and the other's my maternal grandpa. They're both family. Arguing is one thing, but if they really hurt each other, that's no good. Whatever, I'll just ignore them. With my mom, the emperor here, they shouldn't be able to cause any real trouble. Since I can't talk them out of it from the womb, I'll just pretend not to hear them. My mom is here, so she should be able to calm them down. I'll just study the rewards I just got. System, fuse the rewards this time, the Golden Wing Rock Talent Rune. I stopped thinking about it and immediately called out to the system. As my command was given, golden runes rose and flickered. At that moment, I felt as if an ancient divine beast had awakened inside my body. The Golden Wing Rock Talent Rune merged with me, and I felt as if I had become a great rock myself, soaring from the North Sea and looking down upon the world. Its speed was the fastest in all the great realms. An unseen, high-pitched cry sounded, piercing through the spatial barriers and shaking everyone's souls. Outside the hall, the four people's souls all felt that cry. Jiang Taishu and Su Yunfeng stopped bickering immediately. Their hearts were pounding, and their 4 pairs of eyes looked toward Suchuan's belly. They were just filled with confusion when another cry sounded. This time, the restrained heaven-swallowing sparrow and the green cloud thunder goose both prostrated themselves on the ground, trembling uncontrollably. They bowed in the direction of Su Jingqing, as if there was a supreme divine beast over there, and its bloodline was exerting a terrifying suppression on them. "What's this kid up to now?" Zhang Shengshu's mouth hung open, and he didn't know what to say. Su Qingqing's expression was even more spectacular. She felt it most clearly. Runes were boiling inside the fetus's body, constantly evolving and changing. It was as if 2 formless, golden wings had sprouted from my tiny body's back, and all this was caused by those runes. Could it be the Golden Wing Rock's talent rune? Su Qingqing said in horror. Hearing her, Jiang Shengsu could no longer sit still. He hurriedly said, "The Golden Wing Rock? Wasn't it already extinct in the ancient era? How could this kid have such a thing?" The Golden Wing Rock was a supreme existence that dominated the ancient and primordial eras, one of the most terrifying divine beasts, even on par with a heavenly phoenix. There's no mistake. This is definitely the Golden Wing Rock's rune, Su Qingqing confirmed. The heaven-swallowing sparrow and the green cloud thunder goose were completely suppressed, as docile as quails. Outside the hall, the 4 people were speechless, especially the recently returned Jiang Taishu and Su Yunfeng. The 2 grandfathers were truly shaken. They had heard about my incredible feats in the womb, which was already enough to stun them. But now, with me producing a Golden Wing Rock talent rune, a creature long extinct, it was almost too much. This little thing, still unborn, was getting more and more incredible. This little brat. I'm starting to think he's a bit creepy, Zhang Shengshu muttered. Su Qingqing shot him a glare but didn't refute him. My recent string of feats really was a little creepy. Cultivating in the womb and having a powerful cultivation method could be explained by having a divine bone. Breaking a new limit could be attributed to the cultivation method and my mother's origin power. Even the Immaculate Sword Heart could be explained as a unique physique. But where did this Golden Wing Rock talent rune come from? That was a bit hard to explain. Jiang Shengshu, if you have nothing good to say, you can shut up. Jiang Taishu glared at his son. What do you mean, creepy? My grandson has supreme talent that surpasses all others. Su Yunfeng immediately chimed in. Don't use your shallow view to speculate about my grandson. Jiang Shengshu looked aggrieved. What's wrong with me joking about my own son? Don't I, his father, have that right? Can you two be reasonable? Do I have no standing in this family? However, no matter how dissatisfied he was, Jiang Shengshu didn't dare to say a word in retort. If he did, the 2 old men might actually team up and beat him. They were just too protective. Just then, the golden runes on Su Qingqing's belly slowly receded, and the overwhelming pressure dissipated. You know, I'm starting to think this heaven-swallowing sparrow is a bit unworthy of my grandson, Jiang Taishu said in a hushed tone. Hearing this, Su Yunfeng looked embarrassed. Well, my green cloud thunder goose, it's also not suitable for my grandson's status. Compared to the Golden Wing Rock, the heaven-swallowing sparrow and the green cloud thunder goose just didn't measure up. At this, the 2 old men, no longer bickering, began to whisper to each other. Old Jiang, what do you think we should do with my green cloud thunder goose? Maybe we should just stew it like you said? I think that's a good idea. We can make some rich soup for Qingqing to drink and help my grandson's body. What about your heaven-swallowing sparrow? I haven't thought about it yet. How about we stew them both? That works, but 2 big birds won't fit in one pot. That's fine. I'll go to the Jade Cauldron Holy Land and borrow their supreme holy artifact. That's a great idea. The Jade Cauldron Holy Land's treasured cauldron is more than big enough for these 2 birds. Okay, it's settled then. You go borrow the cauldron and I'll go sharpen the knives. We'll start as soon as you get back. Hearing their conversation, Jiang Shengshu and Su Qingqing were utterly dumbfounded. Just moments ago, these 2 were showing off their mounts, one claiming his was unmatched in ferocity and the other in majesty. They had almost come to blows over their pride, and now they were casually planning to stew them both. Are you 2 for real? Inside the womb? I was also stunned. How could you do this? I love these 2 mounts. I don't want to be nourished by them. I felt a great sense of injustice. While I had the Golden Wing Rock talent, I still had to fly on my own, which consumed my own power. Besides, riding an ancient species out in public was far more impressive. How could I show off my status if I just disappeared in a flash of golden rock light? I sighed in my heart. I couldn't stop the two of them. All I could do was silently protest. Grandpas, your thinking is a bit limited. If they don't fit in one pot, can't you just use 2 or 3? And if you don't want to make soup, what about braising one and grilling the other? Those would be delicious. Outside, part of it would be for a barbecue. All these dishes would be incredibly delicious, guaranteed to leave an unforgettable impression. While I was still in the womb thinking about this, outside the Great Hall, a swallowing sky sparrow and the azure cloud thunder yak lay on the ground, trembling. They could both understand human speech, and neither of these ancient species had ever imagined that the person who captured them would want to stew them. Hateful humans, why are you so cruel? Luckily, Su Qingqing promptly stopped Jiang Shengshu and Su Yunfeng. They couldn't actually let them butcher the swallowing sky sparrow and the azure cloud thunder yak. The two old men were very willing to listen to her, as long as they weren't squabbling with each other. Moreover, Su Qingqing's first words invoked me, and the two of them immediately abandoned the idea. I too breathed a sigh of relief. One of these creatures was gentle, the other fierce. How to deal with them would have to wait until I was born. Hearing the noise outside cease, I started to feel a bit bored. My recent actions had truly shocked my parents quite a bit. I had already created a new Brittlebone Realm record. What should I do next? Since I was idle in the womb, I decided to cultivate continuously to build the strongest foundation until birth. My ambitions were vast. Since I had come to a fantasy world and was born into a family of heaven and earth, I had to do my best to become an unyielding supreme standing tall in the great desolate realm. I mulled it over and finally decided to continue cultivating in the Brittlebone realm. Perhaps there was a chance I could touch a higher realm too, but the facts proved my idea was too optimistic. A few days passed, and my mother had been cooperating with me, constantly drawing on the origin of heaven and earth for me to cultivate. Yet the results were minimal. After learning about my situation, my mother couldn't help but say, "Little one, you must not be too greedy." The purpose of cultivation is to continuously hone your foundation, making it stronger and more robust. This is, of course, a good thing, but cultivation is never solely for the sake of honing the foundation. I wonder if you can understand what I mean. Listening to my mother's words, I fell into deep thought. It seemed there was no need to continue. As soon as I realized this, I felt a great sense of relief. Finally, I didn't have to rush to cultivate anymore. My mother had also been quite exhausted for the past month, so I let her rest. When Jiang Shengshu found out, he also let out a sigh of relief. He looked at his wife's somewhat haggard face and felt immense love. "Qinger, let me give you a massage to help you relax." Jiang Shengshu returned to his devoted nature, massaging his wife's shoulders and legs. After a good session, Su Qingqing entered a temporary state of seclusion. Having expended a great deal of energy during this time, she needed to recover. That day, a few people suddenly arrived at the Shuang Cave Heaven. Tang Jianshan, Zhan Lingtian, and 3 elders have come to visit unannounced. Double Heaven Emperors! This voice echoed outside the cave heaven, loud and clear. Each word fell like an immortal sword, piercing the sky, and its sword intent burst forth in all directions. This was the might of a top-tier sword cultivator. A simple sentence triggered a terrifying spectacle. Why has the heaven-reaching sword saint come? Su Qingqing and Jiang Shengshu were immediately confused. Without overthinking it, Jiang Shengshu waved his hand, opening the formation outside the cave heaven. Immediately, 4 streaks of swordlight flashed out from the void, coalescing into the shapes of 4 people. The one leading them was a man with a white robe, sword-like eyebrows, and a graceful figure, appearing to be only in his 30s. Behind him stood 3 old men, all of whom also had swordlight swirling around them. "Greetings, Heaven Emperors!" The 4 landed, walked into the courtyard, and bowed in unison to Su Qingqing. Su Qingqing raised a hand, signaling for them to sit and talk. "Heaven-reaching Sword Saint, what brings you here?" Jiang Shengshu poured him a cup of tea and asked. Jian Lingtian was not one to beat around the bush and immediately explained his purpose. "I was in the Tianlin territory and learned from the Mu family that your unborn disciple has awakened the unblemished sword heart. I came here today to ask the Double Heaven Emperors if, after your disciple is born, he may enter my Tibetan sword mountain to cultivate." In the womb, I was stunned when I heard Zhan Lingtan's words. I was still several months away from being born. He was in such a hurry to recruit me into Tibetan Sword Mountain. Was I that sought after? I couldn't help but feel a little smug. See, a peerless sword heart is just that popular. and that's Tibetan Sword Mountain, the world's strongest sword path lineage. It's only been a few days, and they've already rushed here to take me as a disciple. It wasn't just me. Su Qingqing and Zhang Shengshu couldn't help but smile. The Sword Saint wants to take my son into Tibetan Sword Mountain and have him focus on the sword path? Su Qingqing's pleasant voice rang out. She touched her belly. To be honest, she was a little reluctant. The sword cultivators of Tibetan Sword Mountain lived a more austere life than most cultivators, dedicating their lives to the sword. However, when it came to the deepest foundation of the sword path, no one could compare to Tibetan Sword Mountain. Even though she was a heaven emperor, her mastery of the sword was far inferior to theirs. If this boy were to join Tibetan Sword Mountain, he would surely receive full cultivation. And with his unblemished sword heart, he would definitely be able to suppress the 3,000 Dao paths in the future. This made it difficult for Su Qingqing to choose. What do the double heaven emperors and the holy ancestor think? Jian Lingtian's gaze was fixed, looking at Su Qingqing for a moment, then at Zhang Shengshu. The three elders from Tibetan Sword Mountain behind him also had shining eyes, wishing the disciple could be born immediately so they could take him away. Su Qingqing and Zhang Shengshu didn't answer, but I in the womb became anxious. No! I'd rather die than go. I felt my mother's hesitation and immediately got angry. Are you kidding me? Tibetan Sword Mountain is a terrible place. I've heard my parents talk about them. They're a bunch of lunatics who only care about practicing the sword all day. They are indeed very powerful. After all, the sword path is primarily for a fencing killing, unmatched in the world. It couldn't be more impressive. However, I also know that sword cultivation is extremely boring and monotonous. Many people spend the vast majority of their lives honing their sword path. As for other activities, even things like the opening of secret realms or the appearance of treasures, you rarely see the figures of these sword cultivators unless something that truly interests them appears. But I say, if cultivation isn't for showing off, then even becoming an immortal or ancestor is meaningless. Who works their butt off just to make a few stinking coins? In my past life, I had enough of the 996, blessed life, but compared to sword cultivation, 996 is nothing. I don't want to specialize in the sword path. My mind was filled with constant complaints. Isn't it good to just enjoy life? Besides, my mother is a heaven emperor. Do I need to work myself to death practicing the sword? And even if I didn't have that, I have the system. With so many methods at my disposal, how could I be limited to just the unblemished sword heart and specialize in the sword path? Wouldn't that be crippling myself and delaying the cultivation of my other divine abilities? Thinking of this, I immediately raised my little fists and waved them in the void. Su Qingqing immediately sensed this movement. What is this little thing punching my belly for? She was puzzled, but after a moment of observation, she realized I was expressing my displeasure. This surprised her. Does this boy not want to go to Tibetan Sword Mountain? A gentle smile appeared on Su Qingqing's lips. She looked at Jian Lingtian. Heaven-reaching Sword Saint, you're a bit too impatient. Why not wait a few more years? Let the little one make his own decision then. If he wants to go to Tibetan Sword Mountain, I definitely won't stop him. Su Qingqing spoke in a gentle voice. She didn't directly refuse, but left some leeway. Who knew if I would change my mind later? However, Jian Lingtian and the three elders seemed a bit dissatisfied with Su Qingqing's reply. Jian Lingtian suddenly raised a hand and sliced through the void, and a huge fissure appeared in the night sky. And just within that fissure, a melon-sized light embryo emerged. The moment they saw this light embryo, Su Qingqing and Zhang Shengshu's pupils constricted violently. The light embryo just floated there quietly, but with their cultivation, they could feel the terrifying and unimaginable energy it contained. Vaguely, a profound sword intent emanated from within it, as if a peerless life form was being nurtured inside. It's the limitless sword embryo, Zhang Shengshu couldn't help but exclaim. He and Su Qingqing looked at each other, and both saw shock in the other's eyes. The so-called sword embryo was a sword path method that only top-tier sword cultivators could possess. Ordinary cultivators, upon reaching a profound realm, would use their divine souls to form a primordial spirit, and their divine senses would reach heaven and earth. Sword cultivators, however, didn't need to do this. Their divine souls would be extremely concentrated, constantly honed and nourished with vast sword intent over countless years, eventually transforming into a sword embryo. At this point, the sword cultivator themselves became the strongest sword in the world, and the sword embryo was the strongest spirit. Once a sword cultivator cultivated a sword embryo, their power would not just increase tenfold, but 100-fold. Heaven-reaching sword saint, you have a truly grand gesture. You're willing to take out the limitless sword embryo, Zhang Shengshu whispered. He and Su Qingqing had never expected that Tibetan Sword Mountain would bring out such a peerless treasure. Among the 3,000 Tao paths of the Great Desolate Realm, many people knew that Tibetan Sword Mountain had a deep foundation. There was even a rumor that before the founder of Tibetan Sword Mountain, the Limitless Sword Emperor, vanished, he had left behind a limitless sword embryo. However, this was just a rumor, and few knew if it was true. But Su Qingqing and Zhang Shengshu were very clear. This was not a rumor. The limitless sword embryo truly existed. We, at Tibetan Sword Mountain, originally planned to give this limitless sword embryo to the absolute spirit sword physique. I'm sure both of you are aware that if this sword embryo could merge with the absolute spirit sword physique, it would be a seamless match. At that point, even the unblemished sword heart might not be its opponent, Zhan Lingtian said. Zhang Shengshu nodded. He naturally understood this point. The absolute spirit sword physique cultivated neither spiritual power nor a divine soul, only the sword path. Since they didn't cultivate a divine soul, they couldn't nurture a sword embryo. But even so, the absolute spirit sword physique could eventually achieve the pinnacle, using their body as a sword, and could even cleave open the gate of heaven and strike down immortals. But with this limitless sword embryo, they could completely make up for their only shortcoming. Such an absolute spirit sword physique would be unmatched in the world, and becoming a sword emperor would be a certainty. At that time, even the unblemished sword heart would likely be at a disadvantage in front of them. Before I could deliver the sword embryo to the Mu family, I heard that your disciple had awakened the unblemished sword heart. Double Heaven Emperor's holy ancestor, I have come this time with utmost sincerity. As long as you agree, the limitless sword embryo will be his after he is born. With the potential of the unblemished sword heart, he will definitely be able to gain the sword embryo's approval. His eyes were full of expectation. The disciple is already extraordinary. Besides the unblemished sword heart, he also has a special constitution. Furthermore, according to the Mu family, he even cultivated in the womb and saw through the limit of the brittle bone realm. All of this shows his outstanding talent. If we can take him into Tibetan Sword Mountain, merging with the limitless sword embryo will be like adding wings to a tiger. Of course, there is another very important reason for choosing the disciple. Su Qingqing is the only person in millions of years to have truly attained the Tao fruit of heaven and earth, making her the strongest existence. Becoming the disciple's sect and forming a deep friendship with the Heaven Emperor would bring many benefits to Tibetan Sword Mountain. It's definitely better than a simple alliance with the Mu family. At this moment, I in the womb exclaimed, "This Tibetan Sword Mountain really thinks highly of me. What should I do? I'm so conflicted right now." When I learned about the limitless sword embryo, my heart immediately started burning with desire. Such a peerless treasure was too rare. This was a huge temptation. But then I remembered the boring and monotonous cultivation of a sword cultivator, and I couldn't help but shiver all over. I was in a difficult position. My little face scrunched up. It was a truly hard choice, but in that instant a thought suddenly struck me. I'll get my mother to agree first. Then, after I'm born, I'll just be a nominal disciple of Tibetan Sword Mountain, right? I'll get the limitless sword embryo first. After that, I'll still be able to do whatever I want. Since my mother is a heaven emperor, even if I don't stay at Tibetan Sword Mountain, those people can't do anything to me. Ha ha ha, I'm so clever. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but get excited. Tibetan Sword Mountain was strong, but they weren't stronger than my mother. Even if I truly tricked them into giving me the limitless sword embryo, they would probably just have to accept it. And to be fair, I wasn't being ungrateful. I could still be a disciple of Tibetan Sword Mountain. If they were in trouble, I definitely wouldn't stand by and watch, and if there were any suitable benefits, I certainly wouldn't forget about them. I just wanted to pursue freedom and live the life I wanted, not spend all my time practicing the sword. There was no conflict at all. At that moment, I was incredibly pleased with myself, my plan resounding in my mind. But in the very next instant, a voice suddenly rang out in my mind. New mission issued. System. Forge the path of the unrivaled. Why borrow from another's methods? Host, please complete the mission objective. Refuse the limitless sword embryo. Mission reward. Great desolate heaven-shattering finger. This sudden mission instantly left me completely dumbfounded. What? I was just conflicted about whether to take the limitless sword embryo, and this system fairy actually tells me to refuse it? This is so frustrating. Such a powerful divine treasure, and you want me to refuse it? I was speechless. However, the reward the system offered was also terrifyingly powerful. The quote, great desolate heaven-shattering finger. If I cultivated it to the pinnacle, a single finger could shatter the cosmos, reverse the firmament, and make the great Tao of the turning laws collapse. No matter how powerful the enemy, I could crush them with a single finger. Which one do I choose? Now I was even more conflicted. I wanted both treasures, but it was clear that the system wouldn't let me exploit a loophole. This was a truly difficult choice. In fact, at this time, I wasn't the only one who was conflicted. Su Qingqing was also unsure. She glanced at Zhen Lingtian sitting opposite her, and even considered just agreeing for the little guy. But after a while, she felt no movement from the little guy. Could it be that this little one doesn't think much of the limitless sword embryo? That makes sense. Even without the limitless sword embryo, this boy is bound to become a supreme. Just the mysterious cultivation technique he practices is enough to let him rise from nothing and dominate the world, Su Qingqing thought. Sword Saint, your offer is truly tempting, Su Qingqing said with a helpless smile. The limitless sword embryo quietly floated there, radiating light. She glanced at it, feeling a bit of regret, but she couldn't help it. What could she do if the little one didn't care for it? Su Qingqing withdrew her gaze and continued. As I said before, let's wait until the little one is born and he can make his own decision. She still didn't completely shut the door. What if the little one changed his mind after being born and decided to accept the limitless sword embryo? Hearing Su Qingqing's words, Zhan Lingtian's eyes couldn't help but show disappointment. Even the three elders behind him almost got angry. Double Heaven Emperors, Holy Ancestor, a peerless treasure like the limitless sword embryo requires consideration? You want to let the disciple make his own decision on such an important matter after he's born? Are you serious? One of the elders from Tibetan Sword Mountain said immediately. To be honest, we came here specifically today. It was to get a definite answer. If we don't get a positive reply, this limitless sword embryo will definitely be given to the absolute spirit sword physique. After all, for a sword cultivator, every day is spent honing their sword intent, and there is no room for delay. The meaning behind the words was simple. If you can't decide, we can only give the sword embryo to the absolute spirit sword physique. If we were to wait a few more years for your disciple to be born, it would delay the Mu family's young master's cultivation for too long. This left Su Qingqing and Jiang Xingxu in a state of hesitation, especially Jiang Xingxu, who immediately grew restless. Su Qingqing had to send him a telepathic message to get him to calm down. Watching their faces show indecision, Zhan Lingtian felt even more regretful. The elder who had just spoken was about to say something else, but Zhan Lingtian waved his hand to cut him off. Zhan Lingtian shook his head helplessly. A treasure like this, from our Tibetan Sword Mountain, a sword embryo left behind by a sword emperor, and someone could actually refuse it? It's truly hard to accept. Double Heaven Emperor's Holy Ancestor, please reconsider. I can wait a few more days. In 3 days, the Mu family will be hosting a banquet for the absolute spirit sword physique. Before the sword embryo is given away that day, if you make a decision, you can send me a message, Jian Lingtian said with a sigh. After he finished speaking, he cupped his hands and bid them farewell. Then, he led the three elders and transformed into streaks of sword light, disappearing into the void. Seeing them leave with faces full of disappointment, Jiang Shangshu murmured with emotion, quote, "That was the limitless sword embryo. Are we really going to refuse it?" Su Qingqing smiled brightly. Let's respect the little one's wishes. He doesn't seem to want the limitless sword embryo. Jiang Shangshu was helpless. That stinky brat? You're not even born yet. What do you know? A peerless treasure left by a sword emperor, and you just refuse it so easily? It's all because your mother spoils you. Inside Su Qingqing's belly, I completely ignored my father's complaints. I squirmed for a moment, then suddenly remembered something important. Zhan Lingtian's words before he left had reminded me of it. I immediately started waving my little hands, trying to tell my mom that I had something to say. This situation made Su Qingqing pause. "Don't tell me," she asked, puzzled. "You little thing, did you regret it so quickly? Do you want the limitless sword embryo now?" But I started hammering her belly again, clearly denying it. "You don't want the limitless sword embryo? Then what do you want? To continue cultivating?" she asked. I once again used my actions to deny it. This left Su Qingqing completely confused, with no idea what I wanted. Do you want to join Tibetan Sword Mountain? Jiang Shengshu asked, tentatively. I hammered my mom's belly to deny it. I want to go to the banquet. Take me to the Mew family for the feast. And I want to sit at the kids' table. I silently screamed in the womb, waving my hands and feet nonstop. What I was thinking about was the system mission I hadn't completed yet. One of the twin mission banners was for me to go to the Mew family's banquet, but my mom and dad had no intention of going. If I didn't go, wouldn't my 5 thunder veins go down the drain? How could I miss out on such a powerful martial vein? So, in the last few days, I had been thinking about how to tell my mom my idea, but no matter how hard I thought, there was nothing I could do. Then, just before he left, Zhan Lingtian mentioned the celebratory banquet for the absolute spirit sword physique. This immediately gave me an idea. All right, I finally found a chance to remind Mom. But, as usual, my mom and dad couldn't figure out what I was thinking. Outside, Su Qingqing and Jiang Shengshu looked at each other. Do you miss Grandpa? Do you miss your aunts and uncles? Do you miss the swallowing sky sparrow and the azure cloud thunderyak? Do you want to go out and play? The two of them started a guessing game, but in the end, the little one denied all of it. This made them break out in a sweat, and they started pacing around the courtyard. What the heck does this stinky brat want? No! None of that! I want to go to the Mew family! I need to go to the Mew family to get the 5 thunder veins! Inside the womb, I was crying a river. It was just too exhausting to communicate with my mom this way. They guessed for a long time, but didn't grasp my meaning at all. There was nothing I could do but continue hammering her belly. Even Jiang Shengshu and Su Qingqing, one a holy ancestor and the other a heaven emperor, were completely exhausted by this point. Your mind is truly as hard to read as a needle at the bottom of the sea, they thought.